G'day warbanders, and welcome back to another video on why I love X-COM files. And this is my first impressions of this mega mod, which focuses on the beginning of X-COM in the original X-COM game, where you literally start out with just a couple of cars and agents, and eventually you grow to where you start in the vanilla game. It's basically an alien conspiracy theme in the 90s. You know, it's essentially like the TV show from X-Files. Do you ever watch that? And initially I was like, I don't know, like, is this going to be a good mod? Because, like, you know, the earlier theme, you know, you don't get to the aliens till later in the game. But then I was playing and I was like, oh, this is amazing, you know. And yeah, the amount of content, I'll just start off, you know, is amazing. You know, the lore, the guns, the tech is astonishing for a mod like this. You know, there's so many mega mods for original XCOM, and they're just AAA quality. You know, the amount of content is astonishing. Like, as I said before, I can't put it into words of how good it is. There's SMGs, pistols, sniper rifles, machine guns, so it has all the weapons you expect that add more depth to the game, because the original game didn't have types of different weapons really. It just had plasma guns and, you know, normal guns. You know, like, it didn't have like different types of roles of different weapons, you know. So it's nice to have that variety. And I like the variety of weapons, but there's some little kinks about that, and I'll get to that on another point. And yeah, there's some character elements in the form of the advisors. I found the dialogue with, like, you know, in the lore section pretty cool. Add some humor to the mod, which is lacking in original XCOM. It's like there's some advisors that talk to you sometimes when you research stuff. It's really funny. And yeah, when I was scrolling through the UFOpedia, when I was just like looking at it, you know, I was scrolling through, I saw some spicy stuff, and I was like, yeah, this is the mod for me, guys. Like, and yeah, the progression is like the whole spiel about XCOM files. You know, it's really satisfying seeing your organization growing bit by bit, from cars to vans. You can also get some bigger transports which have shorter range in terms of fuel, but I like to just focus on the cars and vans and helicopters. Like, yeah, I've only got to the point where you have helicopters, because the mod is huge. I haven't been able to complete it. I also got almost wiped. I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, you eventually get to, you know, the original XCOM level. We have a Sky Ranger, but you don't have a Sky Ranger at the beginning. So you have to actually, you know, research all this stuff. You have to actually get promoted as an organization, because when you start out, you know, the world doesn't really care about you, because they think, oh, aliens don't exist, you know. You're just an alien conspiracy, low-level organization we don't really care about. So that's the sort of the vibe of the game, where you're trying to get noticed, you know, like in the X-Files show, and, like, you know, the aliens who don't exist sort of theme, you know. And yeah, I went to go watch the X-Files to see what the fuss was about, and basically this is a one-to-one of the TV show, but more large scale. So if you wanted to see those investigations, the interactions with the aliens and the monsters, or the X-Files, you want to see that in sort of a strategy game, this is what this mod is, okay? And, you know, it has that Men in Black type feel, you know, intrigue. You know, you're just starting out with, and you also fight Men in Black. You fight these other human enemies. The whole point in the early game is fighting these cults. So these cults, these different types of cults, which have different ideologies, and there's a inference in the mod that these cults are started by the aliens, which is an interesting lore tidbit. And I don't know what happens when you fail to deal with these cults by 1999, because I think that's when the invasion starts, when the aliens start coming. So it's not just like you're fighting cults all the time, which I thought the game was going to be like, is, oh, I'm fighting with these, you know, human cultists. Like, when am I going to see the aliens? But they actually come later on. So you actually have I think there's like two stages in the game where you have to deal with these cults one by one by assaulting their bases and capturing their officers. Similar to the original XCOM, we have to capture high-level enemies to progress in the story. Same thing here, just a bit more detailed. And I assume that if you don't deal with these cults, you lose the game, or you just stick around, or they just stick around harassing you and destroying your score. So it gets a bit difficult when, if you don't deal with these cults and their activities, your score can get really bad. So, and I've been in a situation where I've been in the negatives for a while, and I had to, bring up my game like immensely. Otherwise, I'm just going to lose the game via score. So it's not like the original X-COM where I can sort of coast around, do nothing, and I can sort of survive without any sort of consequences. In this mod, I have to pay attention to what I'm sending out my troops to, and have to conserve my manpower, because agents in this game are valuable, and I'll get to that in a second. But on the point is that the mod is difficult. Recently, I haven't recorded it here, but I had an entire squad annihilated off screen in the classic XCOM fashion, where there's a dude sitting there with a grenade launcher facing all my dudes. I'm like, what do I do in this situation? Yes, I could have bought the mission, but it was a good mission, because it's one of those safe house missions where you have to collect, all these enemies, like interrogate them all. And yeah, that grenade launcher just went ham and just killed all my dudes. Like, I was hoping to shoot him as he was, I was hoping to shoot him at the start of the game, right? And they, of course, in the XCOM fashion, they all miss. And then boom, I've lost like four guys that just go down. So the game can get pretty brutal, depending on the enemy type and their weapon. Long range weapons are king in this game. I always use the hunting rifle in the early beginning, because I just feel like range is super important, because if you're using pistols and SMGs, you're sort of at a disadvantage, because if you try and close in with the enemy in close quarters combat, it's like they're just going to spray you down. So it's better to fight at long range, because most of the enemies will just have pistols. And yeah, I think I mentioned this before, but also, not only do you have to fight cult members, you also have to fight men in black. So the sort of organizations, these CIA organizations, I assume, that are funded by the aliens or something like that. So they sometimes come on your missions and they sort of surprise you. So you're like walking in the dark, right? And you hear this rat-a-tat-a-tat, like this SMG, and it's just like this man in black dude with a cool looking gun, and he just sprays down one of your dudes. And you're like, oh shit, I actually have to deal with something like really powerful here. So yeah, those guys can get really dangerous, because they have high aim. I've noticed, like, they always hit my dudes. Like, so yeah, really, the enemy variety is huge in this mod. I love the enemy variety. The different types of cults, as I said before, amazing. The combat is good. It's the original XCOM, but with some certain changes. Incorporates the UFO mod, which makes your accuracy decrease over distance. I think it's called UFO extender. So like, you can't just shoot auto shot all the time. So say if you really want to hit this dude, you got to do aim shot. So it basically makes it so like, auto shot isn't meta. Melee combat is highly encouraged in this mod, because if you close the distance when you're trying to melee an enemy, you can nullify their ability to shoot, basically. So if I move up and I'm just sitting next to them, like, it sort of simulates that sort of thing. Like, we're sort of throwing hands and he can't really aim his weapon. Some people don't like that, I've noticed in some YouTube videos, but I love it, because just adds some more depth to the game. There's also perks, but they're not like hugely influential. Like, they sort of like stack. So there's like these little perks you get when soldiers do certain actions in the game, which sort of will boost their stats, which are really important. So say if your soldier does a lot of Overwatch, for example, when like the enemy is moving up to kill you, right? You get like an Overwatch perk, which increases your aim, essentially, I think. So that's sort of a nice detail. I love the art of the UFO PDO as well, so it's really nice. I think like the art is sometimes ripped from some other stuff, but it's still good. I still love it. Everything's based off 90s cliches and all that, I've noticed. Unlike the original XCOM game, your individual soldiers are actually more valuable than you think they are. I've taken a lot of casualties. I'm still surviving, but it's a way bigger hit to my, experienced, side of the soldiers, right? Because I just finding it like if you get wiped, it's kind of hard to fight the enemies because you need that aim, you need those stats to shoot the enemy, because it just makes the game way more harder if you lose too many soldiers. And they're like 25 grand a piece for an agent. And your income, by the way, I haven't mentioned this, your income is very limited at the beginning of the game because no one cares about you, right? So you're going to get limited funding, and you slowly get more money over time from these, like from missions and all that, but it's very small in the beginning. So every loss sort of hits you in the gut or heart or whatever. And yeah, like basically it's much more punishing when you to lose soldiers, which I like, but it's not too punishing, you know. It's not like X-COM it's not like Firaxis S-COM where if you lose like, I don't know, like 3 soldiers, oh, it's game over. Like at least in this, I can take the heat, I can take the damage, but I can't survive. You know, it's not like I lose the game immediately. The only really criticism I have, like my initial first thoughts on this mod, is that the progression, while there's like a lot of content, it's very long to get through all the content. Like I just find it very slow paced. Maybe I'm just have a low attention span, but I found it very long to play, and there's too many weapons in the mod, so it can feel a bit bloated. So some weapons don't really feel that useful to use. Like I just scroll through all these weapons, I'm like, what's all this trash weapons I don't need? Like I'm comparing like the UFO PD entries, and I'm like, okay, this weapon, I don't know why I'd use this over the other weapon, you know, like. So I like the original XCOM where weapons, you know, while there's less of them, there's still, you know, a clear progression on what one's better than the other, like, and some have certain roles, you know. I just feel like there's too much bloat in the game, and the tech tree is enormous, which is a good thing and bad thing, because when I'm going through the tech tree viewer, it's very hard to find out what you need for certain techs. And in the first playthrough, I'm like, okay, I don't know what's important in this game when I'm researching. So I'm just like researching everything, and I'm just like, oh, I want to get fucked over in the later stages of the game because I researched the wrong thing. And then I realized, oh shit, I have to research the promotion mechanic because, you know, that unlocks more weapons and stuff like that. But then I have to capture more people, you know, and then I have to interrogate them. But the interrogation chance is random because I don't, you know, it's a little bit frustrating in the research side of things. You don't know what you need to research to get more tech, because I'm always in the back of my mind, I'm going, okay, if I don't research, you know, better weapons, I'm like, they're going to get me, right? The enemies are going to get me. So yeah, those are the 2 big criticisms I have of the mod. Everything else, great. Awesome. And yeah, guys, that's my sort of first thoughts on X-Files. I might seem a bit all over the place, but that's why I call it a first impressions, because I haven't fully played the mod out. I've gotten to the stage where I have 2 bases and helicopters and a couple of agents, and yeah, I can't wait to see the aliens, you know. If you like this type of video, like these sort of first impression videos, please like and subscribe. Only 80% of you, like 80% of you don't subscribe, and I'd really appreciate if you would. And yeah, guys, I'll see you in the next video. If you want to see more XCOM files, go check it out. It's one of the best mods in the original XCOM. Some people say X Pirates, like that lewd mod, is better. I don't know why. It's that the X Pirates mod is just too lewd for my taste, you know, like cat girls and, you know, other stuff like fantasy elements. I'm like, how do I, you know, I'll try it one day, the other mod, X Pirates, but like I like X-Files right now, and also the 40k mod, which I'll eventually get to. But yeah, guys, I'll see you guys later. Bye.